Hello, hello, hello there. It's Patricia Hayes here, your executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist with this week's Coffee Time Career Chat, Authentic Networking Edition. Yes, I'm super excited to be here talking with you today about the last piece of our series on maximizing your networking opportunities. And today we are going to wrap it all up and tie it nicely with a golden bow. And the bow is this, that networking gold is in the follow-up. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because there are so few people who actually engage in it. They do not follow up. I have not looked at the statistics recently, but I know that at one point in time, it was as high as 95% of people do not do the follow-up when it comes to their networking and building out their relationships. Can you imagine that? So imagine if you are one of the 5% of people who actually engage in successful follow-up when you're building out your professional relationships. Imagine how powerful that is. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to lay out 3 simple things about you to remember when you're engaging in follow-up. Number 1, follow-up reinforces your investment in the relationship. Think about this. Remember, when we're talking about networking, we're not talking about that sleazy, let me see what I can get from you type of thing. That is not how we operate around here. We're talking about taking the time to actually build out a relationship, to plan the foundation for one so that you can have the ultimate goal of having a professional relationship that lasts for a lifetime. That's the goal. I tell the story all the time that my mentor from college, 30 years later, we are still in contact, okay? That can be the case for you as well. So here's the thing. How do you do that? You have to take the time. The time is the investment. As simple as following up on a regular basis, put it on your calendar, set a schedule, whatever it takes for you to make sure that you are taking the time that you need to with your key folks in your network, as well as helping them to recognize that you're taking this time for them. When people recognize that you are willing to go the extra mile by sending them an article that you say, hey, I read this and it made me think of you and I wanted to make sure that you had seen it. Or, following up with a card that says happy birthday, or I hope your family is doing well, whatever the case it may be, it shows that you are committed to the relationship and there is value in that you cannot take away, all right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, when you follow up, it plants the seed of trust for future interactions. Now think about this, because every one of you read a lot of things. They're always talking about the know, like, trust factor when you're talking about building visibility with people. But you also have to think about it in the terms of when you are building out a relationship for professional purposes. And a lot of times they start bleeding over to personal ones. Okay. When you've known someone for multiple years, you know that if you call them, or they know if they call you, that they're going to get something done, that you're going to be able to address the need that they have, or that you are going to provide them with what needs to happen. Okay. That mutual trust, that mutual respect that builds because you engage in the follow-up. It's planting that seed of, man, they said that they were going to call me and they actually did. Or they said they were going to send me that information and they actually did. Okay. And a lot of times we make the mistake of presuming, well, I never heard back from them, so they must not have done it. Don't jump to those conclusions. I have had many times when someone may not have gotten back to me directly, but I know they followed up because I got a phone call or I got a piece of information sent to me from a third party out of the blue. It's never out of the blue. And that is always so powerful. And I know that I've had that too. Don't beat yourself up. If you take action and do what someone asks you to do, even if you don't necessarily get right back to them directly, if you've taken the action that was requested of you, they will know, okay? So the point is to take action and engage in the follow-up. Do the thing you say you're going to do, check in on people, and continue to do that over time. That is how you build trust, by following up. And last, but certainly not least, is you want to make sure to recognize the fact that when you follow up, it leads to untold opportunities and additional relationships. Here is the magic. Think about this. When you follow up on one thing, it can lead to new opportunities that you haven't seen yet, that you don't know anything about. And then on top of that, you get your network extended even further. Imagine that, simply because you followed up and did something that you said you were going to do, and you made sure to stay in touch. That's incredible. There are so many stories I can tell about those opportunities where it's like, oh man, I really don't know if I have time to do X, Y, and Z, but then you just do it. Make the time. Make the time, and you will be amazed at what comes up, what gets delivered into your lap, okay? Take the extra step. That's the thing. A lot of people, follow up is about taking the extra step, okay? We got to make sure to write that one down, right? It's about taking the extra step. It's about going the extra mile. It's about doing that one more thing. A lot of people don't do the one more thing, especially right now. Things are a little tough for people. Everyone's working outside their comfort zone. We're doing all of this remote work. And someone might say, well, how am I supposed to follow up when I don't even see half the people that I work with or that I do things with or whatever? You do it the same way you do anything else. You pick up the stinking phone. Imagine that. The phones still work. You send an email. Not my favorite thing, because emails do get lost. They do get caught up in, in trash and in junk mail, right? But that's when you follow up again. So let's say you've emailed someone and you haven't heard back from them, and you're like, okay, well, I don't want to nag, because that's the first thing people think. I don't want to nag, but you want to make sure. Give them a week or two. Things are kind of get hung up. And then just reach out again, maybe a different way this time. Maybe you message them through a social media thing. I always tell people LinkedIn is your friend. LinkedIn is golden for engaging in quality, immediate follow-up. If your people are engaged in LinkedIn and use it actively, that is a great way to follow up. It's another avenue, okay? If there are people that you have cell phones with, a lot of people are sharing, be respectful, but you can text message, say, hey, I reached out to you about X. I hadn't heard back. I just want to check, make sure everything's okay, or to see if you have any other questions. It can be as simple as that. Or when you're talking to, let's say, a mutual friend, you can say, hey, have you talked to so-and-so lately? I was checking in with them on something, and I just want to make sure that I get if you talk to them before I do, that they get the message that I'm still trying to connect up with them, right? I think I just laid out 5 things off the top of my head. 5 things off the top of my head, all right? Make sure you follow up to help you to make sure that you follow up as you should. Y'all know how I feel about this. You've got to document it. You've got to keep track, especially if these are newer relationships. If these are newer relationships that you're really trying to build, then you do, until you get into the habit of knowing when you need to, get the flow going, then you literally need to find a journal, use your calendar, use a planner, write down that person's, first initial, last name, or first name, last initial, whatever it is, and then a little note. This is one of the things that I used to do all the time. I would literally, excuse me, I would literally write down initials or something about a name, and then I would say LI for LinkedIn, or I'd write EM for email, or if I, VM for voicemail, okay? Just whatever works for you, you write those things down so that you can remember, first of all, when you got in touch with them, right? And then how you communicated with them so that you know when you go back, number one, how to go look for to see if you missed something, right? Or to know if you need to use a different method, okay? The other way that is really good for engaging in follow-up is to go ahead and schedule something. To go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I would really love to catch up with you. Let's, send them an invite for a coffee chat. For a quick, 50, you have time to talk for over coffee virtually. Guess what? We can still have coffee with people virtually. I've been doing it all year long. Okay. There are no excuses for not engaging in follow-up. Send people the article when you think about them. Forward it to them. If you're thinking of someone and you know that they're planning on traveling somewhere, you can send a little note. Hey, I saw this and was thinking of you. Are you still planning to go to Spain when things clear up? Okay? It's the little touches. This is how you lay the foundation, how you build that trust. You're showing you're ready to make a commitment in that relationship, and that those things that you do can lead to additional opportunities that will be completely unexpected. Okay? And here's the thing. When you do this on a regular basis, when you get consistent about it, then you start a flow that continues. And that's what you're trying to do here. You're trying to lay that foundation to continue a flow that will continue over time. Trust me, when you don't engage in those things, you will know, because things will get very quiet and you'll be like, I haven't heard from anybody in a while, or what happened? And that's how I would know that I had missed a day, I'd missed a week, or something had gone on, whether I'd gotten sick or dealing something with my children, but I'd gotten off track. So you immediately got to get back on track. These are the techniques I used when I went out on my own, starting a consulting firm years and years ago, because I was no longer working in a large office environment. And I needed to make sure that I stayed visible and relevant. That's really important in your career. Are you trying to remain visible and relevant? And if you're doing that, then you've got to follow up with people. That's how you remain visible. That's how you remain relevant. And it's so easy. I know, I've been there where you're just like, I'm tired. I don't feel like being bothered. But guess what? You know my rule. 3 people a week, minimally. If you reach out to 3 people a week, how many will that be in a year? 144 people. I've done the math. If you reach out, think about that. 3 people. If you reach out to 3 people, and I'm talking a week for, let's say, it would go by months, right? So if we're talking about, what is that? I'm probably off on my math. So it's more than that. I have to do my math. But in any case, if I told you to go reach out to 150 people this year, you would freak out and not do it. But if I tell you you can reach out to 3 people this week and then make sure you follow up with them, imagine what that looks like. You can do that in your sleep. You can do that in the next 15 minutes. But if you keep doing that, schedule it, put it on your calendar. When you meet up with someone, make a note. Figure out a system that works for you. I have a a mixed system. I do things both in writing and a planner or a calendar, as well as utilizing my my electronic calendar on my phone. And I do that because so many things go buzzing and ringing and all of that I will very clearly ignore things on my phone. But if I see it, when I'm looking at my calendar, that is a trigger to remind me, you need to make sure you check in with so-and-so this week. Okay? And you can just label them that. Check-ins. That's how you know you're doing your follow-ups. Check-ins. Who are your check-ins? Who are your new reaches, your new outreach? And who are your check-ins? And if you do that, you can build a solid foundation of leveraging, where you can leverage those relationships in the future for things that you don't even have any idea of what they might be right now. But because you will have made the investment of time, because you will have spent the time to build trust, and then to extend yourself to them so that they are willing to extend to you their other relationships that are not in your immediate circle, that is how you build a professional network that lasts. And that's the goal. Okay? Now, if you need some help in building out that professional network and building out your relationships, I have two opportunities for you. Number one is we are going to be starting the 30-day consistency challenge on April 1st. It has been a minute. I have not done one since the end of last year. We are way overdue. So that's what we're going to start. And I'm going to be dropping a link here soon so that you can register for this 30-day challenge. And here's how it works. It is really simple. You identify one thing. Let's say it's being good about following up with your network. You say you're going to do one thing every day for 30 days to build your consistency, to build that habit for accomplishing. I've done this when it came to being more visible. So I did videos for 30 days online. I've done this when it comes to certain things with building out my business. I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on this issue for 30 days. I've been doing this challenge for, I think 3 or 4 years now. And I do it quarterly, and I started involving other people. So it doesn't cost you anything, okay? So join in. I'm super excited to have you join in. And your second opportunity is that if you really want to get serious about it, then you can schedule some time, and you can get on my calendar, and we can have a little consult time, a little strategy consultation to talk about what it is you want to accomplish and how, and see if we're a good match for each other so that you can ultimately achieve the goals that you want for your career. So let's get you scheduled. Let's get you on the calendar and have a chit chat and see where things lead. Okay? That is it. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye-bye.